Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone because the next expansion of Hearthstone is now viewable throughout Hearthstone. So let's hop into it and look at the new cards. To see it, you go into crafting mode and you click include uncraftable cards, and then you come over here and select Rumble, the Rastakhan's Rumble. So last time we looked at Paladin cards. This time we'll be looking at priest cards. Let's hop into it and move as quickly as possible because this seems to take longer than you would realize. So our first card is a 0 mana spell to restore 3 health called Regenerate. It's a common class card. Seems pretty basic, seems good. Back in the original days of Hearthstone, a 0 mana spell would probably only restore 1 health. That would make certain sense. So we are potentially at a 3rd generation of power curve adjustments at this point, where a lot of old cards don't make a lot of sense, and there's really no way to rebalance that and get back to that point. In all honesty, a 0 mana spell that restored 1 health should be the best spell out there without there being some kind of other negative attribute. Like maybe you could get a 0 mana spell card that did 2 health but then something negative also happened, or restored 3 health and then 2 negative attributes happened. But down the basics, in all honesty, even a 0 mana spell that did nothing might be an interesting card. Like a 0 mana spell that does nothing but has echo could be used in a few crazy scenarios. Next we have a 1 mana 0 attack 3 health minion called Spirit of the Dead. It has stealth for 1 turn, and after a friendly minion dies, shuffle a 1-cost copy of it into your deck. Again, a lot happening here for 1 mana. Like in the old days, 1 mana stealth would have been good enough. 1 mana 0 attack 1 health, or 1 mana 1 attack 1 health would have been fine in the old days with no special abilities. A lot of cards now feel like they're not actually playable because of this power creep. But it happens with all card games, so you just gotta keep moving with it. And to be fair to Hearthstone, the power creep has not been very fast. Next we have a 2 mana 3 attack 2 health minion called Arachne Fantas, instead of the Arachne Soul Priest that already exists. It's an epic card. Battlecry. This turn your healing effects deal damage instead. You know, I believe this is probably cheaper than Arachne Soul Priest and more useful, because very often you'll use Arachne Soul Priest with the Priest class to do damage to your opponent with a card that normally would heal, but then you'd like to 2 or 3 turns down the road heal yourself, and you're left with killing your own minion or struggling to accomplish that. So I like that addition. I think that's a good idea. Next we have a 2 mana spell called the Seance. Choose a minion, add a copy of it to your hand. Seems a little cheap, but it seems alright too. I don't think, as far as the priest though, there's too many cards out there that makes any sense why that would change too much. Next we have a 3 mana 3 attack 3 health minion called Sandridge. Whenever you cast a spell, summon a 1/1 zombie with taunt. This is probably a pretty good card for the priest. I don't think there's a lot of opportunities to summon taunt minions and use that to your advantage. and you will probably cast a decent amount of spells with a priest. So far so good. I'm liking everything I'm seeing for the priest, so maybe priest will be slightly more playable. I think priest was pretty playable before though. Next we have a 3 mana spell called Surrender to Madness. Destroy 3 of your mana crystals, give all minions in your deck +2/+2. So if you could do this card with the Druid spell card that turns your mana into living crystals, or you could game it some way to get more mana crystals. There might be more of a synergistic idea here, but ignoring that because you really couldn't accomplish that with ease. On the 3rd turn, playing this and giving everything in your deck +2/+2 doesn't seem terrible. Doesn't seem like a bad move. By the 3rd turn, your opponent's not likely to have set up a strategy or be on the edge of killing you. Unfortunately, Hearthstone is very late game. There's not a lot of ways to win early game or even mid game. So, you know, sacrificing your 3rd turn and then having to start over from scratch and play a 1 mana card on your 4th turn probably isn't too bad, particularly if that 1 mana card happened to be given +2/+2. Next we have a 5 mana spell called Mass Hysteria. Force each minion to attack another random minion. Now there is a generic card that will have you draw a card every time that minion suffers damage. Playing something like this might cause you to draw a couple of cards because of that, but I'm trying to think about it. I think that's about it. I don't know what the synergy here would be. Is this just a cheaper, different version of something like Brawl, where you might kill everything on the field or you might not? And I'm not 100% sure how this plays out. Does this start at, say, the top left side of the board and cause that minion to attack a random minion, and then it goes to the top right and attack that minion and it just works its way down that way? Or does it start at the top left and then go down and then up and zigzag in that way? Or is it randomly picked, or do all the minions have just a random attack that plays out at the exact same time? Because this could be a really slow animation too. This is one of those cards that I need to see actually played to figure out if there's more of a strategy here or not. Can I place something with a lot of health but very little attack on one point of the field, and then something with a lot of attack but very little health on another point in the field, and will I be able to figure out how that plays or works? Probably not if it's saying it's random. I'm not sure about this card though. I really am not. I don't know if this is something that's worth playing for 5 mana. Next we have a 7 mana, 7 attack, 7 health card called Samadhi the Dead. I guess Bawan Samadhi. A lot of hard to pronounce names here in this expansion. It has a battle cry: draw 1 cost minions from your deck until your hand is full, which, I mean, we're playing priest here, so unless you were playing a priest Murloc deck, I'm not sure what you're really going for in that. It almost feels like you would have to play so many 1 cost minions in your deck for that to make sense, and it still doesn't make sense because it really is just filling your hand for no reason. But I guess maybe if you could figure out a strategic reason to want to play this card, this 7 mana for 7 attack, 7 health seems to be fine by me as far as the amount of health and attack. So this battle cry may just be a bonus. I do believe there's a way to double your battle cries, but why would you want to do it in this case? Wouldn't do anything. Or you'd hope it wouldn't do anything, at least. And it may be the case that once we start looking at the neutral cards, this makes a lot more sense. Like, there may be a lot of neutral cards in this new expansion that explain things better. Next we have an 8 mana, 7 attack, 5 health legendary minion called Princess Telegy. Battlecry: summon all minions from your hand that didn't start in your deck. Now for a priest, I don't know how there would be any minions in your hand that did not start in your deck. You could play some like neutral elementals, and maybe, but yeah, it doesn't really make any sense otherwise. This feels like a card that should have been a rogue class card. It's almost like the rogue has to steal this card to then play this, to summon a bunch of stolen other cards. Seems like it's a little low on health too. Yeah, unless I find some strategy for this one feels like it's a dud. Finally, we have a 12 mana, 7 attack, 8 health minion called the Grave Horror. It has taunt and it costs 1 less for each spell that you've cast this game. I think for the priest, there's a decent chance that you could have played a lot of spells to get this down. You only have to play a couple to get it down to a 10 mana spell minion, but you could probably get it down to a 5 or 6. I guess ideally you would want to get it down to at least a 7, so you'd have to play at least 5 spell cards. And yeah, I think that's doable with the priest. Let's see. I'm looking at the other cards that are available here. Prophet Valen, double the amount of damage and healing from your spells and hero power. Yeah, there's definitely spells you can play. Not as many as I'd like. Here's the Arachne Soul Priest. What's gonna be funny, I think, is we're gonna get down to like 1 mana minions, and your options are gonna be pretty limited. Test subject. Let's see. Death Rattle, return any spells you cast on this minion to your hand. Like, the Solo Adventure Puzzle Labs use test subject a lot, but I actually haven't seen anybody actually play with it. Norshire Cleric. Yeah, you really don't have a lot of 1 mana spells. And yeah, nothing is working with this quest either. Yeah, so it really feels like these cards from this new expansion are playing up some strategy that I do not recognize, or this card is just kind of a dud thing. Yeah. So I'm kind of neutral on Priest. Well, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Google+, Steam, or Battle.net, there's a whole bunch of links in the description box. Also, you can support me via Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.